So, recently, someone on Discord asked the question of who would win, Urza or Nicol Bolas. And at first, this seems like an easy question to answer. Obviously, Bolas would come out on top, right? But the more I thought about it, the more my mind wandered to the many stories that these two characters are featured in, and I became less certain of that conclusion. To be brief, I don't actually think the difference between the Master of Machines and the Forever Serpent is that great. Both are old walkers, both are meticulous masterminds with multifaceted plans, and both have been shown to be capable of some truly devastating magic in the past. In order to exercise my creative juices, I've decided to analyze how these two characters would fare against one another in two different scenarios. But before we can get into the fight, I suppose I should introduce the characters being brought to the table. First up is the Tyrant of Worlds, Nicol Bolas. This dragon is one of the oldest planeswalkers. His spark ignited at one of the earliest points in Magic's chronology. Since then, he's built up quite the resume across the multiverse, taking on the role of Emperor and God. Bolas is a fan of multifaceted schemes that serve his own ends, those ends usually being just an increase of his own power. He's also educated in a wide variety of subjects. He's had a lot of time to read a lot of books. Bolas is a master manipulator and is talented in a wide range of magics. The most iconic is a simple touch of his, one that can damage the minds of any his claw can reach. But Bolas is not just magically powerful. He's also a 60-foot long, 60-ton flying dragon capable of breathing destructive fire, and he's quite dexterous for a creature of his size too. He's capable of maneuvering around spaces he really should not be able to. Now, Bolas's largest shortcoming is his own short-sightedness and his arrogance. As far as I'm aware, every single one of his losses comes from him overestimating himself and underestimating his opponent. He never really seems to learn from these mistakes either, always seeing himself as simply too great to lose. Now, Urza has spent decades of his mortal life fighting a war against his brother Mishra, a very devastating war. After his spark ignited, he would continue his warlike ways, dedicating nearly 4,000 years to defeating his new enemy, the Phyrexians, led by their god Yawgmoth. Urza is a bit of a controversial figure, but in the end, he did give his own life to put an end to the Phyrexian invasion, saving Dominaria and quite possibly the whole multiverse. Urza's single greatest weapon is his mind. Urza is an expert strategist and an artificer. His plans stretch for millennia and include all sorts of crazy points. They almost always seem to have a backup, and the machines he built were some of the most impressive in the multiverse. Urza was no slouch when it came to magic either, and has performed some of the most astonishing feats of spellcrafting in the multiverse. Urza was also more resilient than most other planeswalkers, even for his time. His essence was tied to his Power Stone eyes, and he could reconstitute himself a new body, even after catastrophic explosions, so long as he still had those. Oh, and he could also shoot laser beams from them, and I personally think that was cool as hell. Urza does have several flaws, but his biggest one was a martial one. The dude was just bad in a fight. Yes, he could rip apart massive Phyrexian war machines with ease, and he could lay waste to entire planes with his fury, but when put on equal footing with an opponent, Urza just wasn't that skilled of a fighter. And now with introductions out of the way, we can examine the two scenarios in which these planeswalkers could fight. In Scenario A, Urza and Bolas meet on a random plane by pure chance and duke it out death battle style. Neither has any forewarning of the meeting, and they have no time whatsoever to prepare, and just to make all things equal, neither can leave. They have, for whatever reason, lost that core ability to planeswalk out of the battlefield. Meanwhile, in Scenario B, Urza and Bolas are both aware of one another and plan to destroy each other. Here, they have all the prep time in the world before their ultimate confrontation and have access to all of the resources they would otherwise have had access to. Now then, in Scenario A, I believe Urza just flat out loses. As I said before, Urza was not a skilled fighter, and suddenly being thrust into a confrontation with someone as powerful as Bolas would be a bad time for him. Bolas, meanwhile, has had a great deal of experience fighting against beings on his own level, with one of his earliest known battles being an epic showdown with a demonic Leviathan planeswalker, one that was so grand that it actually ruptured reality. This fight between Urza and Bolas could drag on for some time, with both of them testing each other's defenses with simpler spells, but ultimately Bolas is more aggressive and Urza more defensive. To make matters worse, this fight would almost certainly quickly become a physical one, and while I'm not sure what effect Bolas's touch would have on the already insane Urza, I'm still pretty certain that it would be devastating. Without the proper time to analyze his opponent's skills and weaknesses, Urza would soundly bite the dust here, even with his powerful regeneration abilities. In Scenario B, Urza fares much better, but that's because while Bolas will try to work out some ridiculous plan with way too many moving parts to be properly effective, Urza will concoct a scheme with way too many redundancies to fail. Bolas really isn't as big a grand planner as he likes to assert he is. Most of his plans are, relatively speaking, fairly short-sighted and don't allow for unknown variables, while Urza's whole thing was insane troll planning that flabbergasted everyone involved. Bolas's scheme against Urza, whatever it may be, would be fairly straightforward, relatively predictable for whatever the circumstances would be, and would have holes inside of its holes. Bolas, even knowing so much about the opponents he faced in the past, also tended to just underestimate them, never accounting for the unknown. Every single one of Bolas's defeats occurred because of this, his own arrogance leading to his downfall. Urza's plan, meanwhile, would be insanely meticulous and fucktastically detailed, and would almost certainly cause a lot of collateral damage. Planes would be razed, bystanders would be slaughtered, but in the end, Bolas wouldn't be able to grasp the full extent of Urza's schemes and would fall as a result. And there you have it. 2 different old walkers, 2 different scenarios, 2 different outcomes. This was a fun little exercise and an opportunity to think about what could have been. What did you think of this, and would you like to see more? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, then why not leave a like and share it with your friends? If you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell, you'll be alerted whenever I upload new videos. And finally, this video was brought to you by my patrons. Patrons support the channel with their donations and, in turn, get early access to all of my lore videos. If you want to help out, a link is in the description below. Thanks again, and have a great day.